Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Joseph Ryder Anderson podcast. This is the first episode of 2026, and I'm so excited to be talking about one of my favorite topics within Union Arena, but also just in general, which is the upcoming Sword Art Online Volume 2 set. This set is releasing in just a matter of days, really. Maybe a matter of weeks is more accurate. It's releasing on the 30th, with release events starting 1 week prior on the 23rd, which means, as incredible as it is to say, at the end of this week, the release events are just 2 weeks away. If you're like me, you've probably been waiting for the Sword Art Online Volume 2 set to come out for a while. Sword Art Online remains to this day, although I've loved many sets. My favorites are probably Bleach, the different Bleach sets we've gotten, Kaiju, but my favorite of all is Sword Art Online. And I was playing Sword Art Online, I wouldn't say exclusively, but I was playing it quite a bit competitively for a couple months, and that was such a strong set for anyone who remembers back when Sword Art Online came out. It was such a strong set that it virtually dominated the meta for a while. It came out at a perfect time. We had just had a very Code Geass purple heavy meta, a One Punch Man meta that kind of countered the purple Code Geass meta. And Sword Art Online had a lot of interesting things it could do that played really well into the Union Arena meta at the time. Since then, the decks have aged a little. They definitely need a little help. And they get that and more in Sword Art Online Volume 2. Sword Art Online Volume 2 is the strongest Volume 2 we've seen in the English meta so far. But I think Sword Art Online Volume 2 is going to have the biggest impact of any Volume 2 so far. The strongest deck that's going to come out in Volume 2 is the relatively notorious Purple Yuna deck. I say notorious because for a while, Purple Yuna was known for dominating the Japanese meta, and it's a very strong deck, which we'll talk about soon. You'll see why it's so strong. But that's not the only one that's going to be S tier. Green GGO gets a huge buff in Volume 2 to make that deck S tier. And there's other decks that have claims to maybe not S tier, but just below that, like the new purple progressive deck, and even Yellow Goddesses. So in this episode, we're going to be taking a look at the decks that are coming out, the decks that have improved for Sword Art Online, but we're also going to be talking about all things Union Arena and Sword Art Online. I've been waiting excitedly for Sword Art Online Volume 2 so long that it really didn't hit me how close we are getting until my first tournament of 2026, where I realized, oh wow, we have SAO participation cards, we have SAO winner cards. I did manage to bag the Asuna winner card. So I went and played. I played at a tournament and got the Tokito. Barely missed the Asuna. And I was kind of like, hit me hard. I had to go and rebuild my Mina deck to really make sure I could go and win the Asuna. I just wanted one. My goal is to get 9. I usually try to complete 9 of a particular card from a set that I really like for the winter cards. So my goal is to hit 9 Asuna winter cards. I've already gotten one that I won from a 10-player tournament. Very tough competition, very strong players. I was able to secure that win, and I'm sure there'll be many more of those. But the Asuna winter card looks gorgeous. You really have to see this card. It's from the Progressive movies, the styling. It's from the Progressive deck, and the colors are gorgeous. It features a beautiful outfit for Asuna. Just a really beautiful winter card. Take a look at it. But this winter card is gorgeous. The other winter cards, too, are getting a lot of attention. The Asuka Langley, the Tokito is a beautiful card, and then the Chohiro from Kagurabachi is pretty popular, too. People really like that manga, so it's going to be a cool set. But yeah, it's really cool to have so many incentives as an SAO fan right now. So we have this Asuna winner card, that you can only get at store tournaments. And then we also have an upcoming Asuna. It's not as good as the winner card, but there's an Asuna release event card that you can win from attending a release event. You can get the regular promo without the stamp just from participating in a Sword Art Online Volume 2 release event, and you get the winner stamp card from winning. It's not as nice looking as the Asuna winner card, but it's still a nice looking card. Definitely worth the chase. Beyond that, where I think the other thing to talk about too, there's a lot of really interesting alternate art cards that we're getting for Sword Art Online Volume 2. But the two biggest chase cards from this set that are worth talking about are the SR triple star cards for Kirito and Asuna. And those cards are really beautiful. They're going to be worth a ton of money. The Asuna, to this date, the Asuna card for Sword Art Online, the original set, is the highest SR triple star that's not signed or not serialized. It's the highest value one, so it's very, very valuable. And I think the Asuna signed triple star from Volume 2 is likely to be even more valuable. So definitely a huge set for collectors, a huge set for players all around. Sword Art Online was already a fantastic set. This is going to just catapult Sword Art Online as a whole to new heights. It's a fantastic set. Now, so where do we stand with the decks? Let's go ahead and take a look at them. We're going to start with this kind of wonky deck. I was working on this and it was hard to really piece it together. But it's a deck that's focused on Lisbeth. So if you remember from the anime, Lisbeth has this little arc with Kirito where they go and they see this dragon. And it's kind of a fun little arc. The Lisbeth is cool. She lets you grant double attack to Kirito. So you can basically recycle that double attack with Kirito. And otherwise, the deck functions a lot like the existing Blue Aincrad deck. It's kind of a fun little side deck. It's not going to be a serious deck, but I thought it was interesting that we got some new Lisbeth Kirito focus cards. So people who are really big fan of that little sub-arc might like building that deck for fun. Now, the deck that's the biggest disappointment to me in Volume 2, and this feels like a deck that needs a Volume 3 to get stronger, and I think there is some potential. But the biggest disappointment deck is the Integrity Knights deck. So this deck is different than the Alice, Yu-Gi-Oh, Kirito deck. This deck is really focused on the Integrity Knight affinity. The Integrity Knights play a huge role in Sword Art Online in the show and the anime. They're a very powerful force, and I think they deserve a better deck than what they're getting. They have this Administrator card, if you remember her. She's kind of a crazy bad guy in the show. Very strong, and she lets you do some interesting things. She lets you play up to one yellow Integrity Knight card with required energy of 1 or less from your sideline to your field, and you can also search the top 7 cards of your deck for an armament full control art or release recollection technique. These cards are going to combo with your Integrity Knights to do some interesting things, and ultimately it's just not quite there. It has some interesting plays, just nowhere near the level of these other decks. Still, the Integrity Knights are cool enough. I'm going to give this deck a try. It should still be kind of fun. And you do have the Yu-Gi-Oh package that fits really easily into this deck. So that should make it kind of fun, but definitely not the strongest of the SAO decks. And now we're moving up a bit of a step to the Fairy Dance Arc deck. For those who remember Fairy Dance, the Fairy Dance deck with Lifa at its core is a very aggro-focused deck. It's the aggro deck from Sword Art Online. And it does get some buffs to make the deck stronger. The biggest change is you get this 4-cost Lifa. This is as your new color trigger. And if you have 4 more cards in your hand, reduces cards required energy in your hand by 1. So she becomes a 3-cost, 4,000 BP character, which is pretty good. And on play, you may pay 1 AP if you did. Choose up to 1 character on your opponent's front line with BP 4,000 or less and return it to their hand. That's actually really good. So that's a really strong buff to the Fairy Dance deck. I think I could see a lot of people playing this deck given everything that it gets from Volume 2. I think this deck gets considerably stronger. But it's a really aggro-y, rushy kind of style deck. You're really looking to just hit a bunch of hits in, make it so your opponent can't block you as opposed to killing your opponent's characters or sidelining them. That's the main goal with the Fairy Dance deck. Not a bad deck. Gets a lot stronger with Volume 2, but still a bit lower down in the hierarchy. And now a deck that it's interesting to see it this low, because this deck was once considered the strongest of the Sword Art Online decks. It was once the strongest multi-attack deck. It basically took that over from Tanjiro. Nezuko had that title for a bit, and then Blue SAO took that over with just a lot more attack power, less consistent than Tanjiro Nezuko, but definitely more attack power behind it. And this deck, funny enough, doesn't get much in Volume 2. I think it was if you look carefully at all the Sword Art Online decks from the first set, they're lacking very obvious things in a way that other sets don't have. And I can see why, because when they're at their full capacity, they're so strong. They would have been meta breaking back when the set came out in April of last year. But as it is, the blue deck gets the least of all the decks. And so I don't think it's going to see as much play. I think people are going to want to play one of the other decks that really rises up, whereas the blue deck just gets a little more power. I think the biggest thing it gets is this Asuna, and there's an alt art for this Asuna that looks really good. It's going to be definitely a top chase for a lot of Asuna fans. It's the 3-cost. It's a big deal. It's the 3-cost 2 energy gen. So you finally have a 2 energy gen character for the raid Asuna to raid over, which makes a huge difference. You can also use her as an attacker to draw a card when she attacks. So, when she attacks. Yeah, if she moves outside, it's the same thing. It's that switch mechanic where she moves outside of the movement phase. But her alt looks pretty cool. I think people are going to like her alt quite a bit with her rapier and her signature Knights of the Blood Oath get up. I think it's going to be pretty popular. So blue doesn't get a ton. It's going to be a very similar deck overall. You do get this 2-cost Kirito, which is kind of cool. But overall, it's going to be a very similar kind of deck to what we've already had before. And from here on out, we're getting to decks that get significant power boosts. They change a lot when Volume 2 comes out. They're decks that really come into their own. They were missing some significant things in the first set, but really come into their own into the second set. And the first is a deck I'm really looking forward to. I'm already picking up a lot of bling for this deck, and that's the Mother's Rosario deck. And this deck had a ton of potential in the first set. I still think it's a bit underrated. People tend to call it a dead deck, and I actually think it was better in the first set than people give it credit for. Being able to boost Asuna to a damage 2 character like that, and then having that 2 AP Yuki is one of the stronger characters around. She's a very strong character. And having both those in the same deck was already decent, but it was lacking some stuff. And it basically gets everything that it was lacking in the Volume 2. The first thing it gets is a much stronger 0-cost character to pair with it. And that is the 0-cost Xenon. And this 0-cost Xenon is going to do a lot for the deck by letting you suss out. Essentially, you're using it to filter through some cards to add Yukis to your sideline. So it's filtering, but also filling your sideline with Yukis. So if you don't know, the Mother's Rosario deck is a deck that you need Yukis and Mother Rosario cards in your sideline to power up your Asuna. And your Asuna becomes quite powerful when you do this. So that's going to add a lot. There wasn't really a natural 0-cost character to fit with this deck. I was running this Gun Gale character that grants 1,000 BP, but having this Xenon is going to change the deck quite a bit. The other cards that you get this new 2-cost Yuki with the active trigger. You have a ton of active triggers in this deck, so it's nice to have that. You can run this as opposed to your. You can run this as opposed to the existing 2-cost Yuki. The existing 2-cost Yuki was okay because she granted a defensive 1000 BP to characters, but the new 2-cost Yuki is definitely going to be quite a bit stronger. So, and having that active trigger just helps you balance out your triggers a bit more. It was a little bit limited before, whereas now with the 2-cost, it's a lot better to be able to have that active trigger. So what this card does is you rest it, discard one card, so you can even discard a Yuki from your hand, retire it, so you fuel your sideline right away with another Yuki, and then you can play up to 1 green Asuna with required energy of 3 or less, and AP cost of 1 set to active, and it gets 1000 BP. So this is really, really strong, a really, really strong card that you could to pair with your 3-cost Asuna that gains the impact. That's a really strong way to have an impact character come in active. So that's probably your strongest play right there, as well as also fueling your sideline a little more effectively. You just get a ton of cards. You get so many cards in this deck. You also get this Asuna, 2 energy on raid target Asuna, and if you have 2 or more Yuki or Mother's Rosario, which is that's gonna be very easy to do, you get to draw a card when she's played, and she also has steps. So that's just a really strong raid target for your Asuna, and that's gonna be really, really good in this deck. And then the single strongest new character that you get, and something that this deck was already strong, it didn't have removal, and now you get removal with this 4-cost Yuki. You get to just straight up remove a 4000 BP character. She does have a negative of sidelining when she's played, but when she's sidelined, first of all, you're trying to build up Yukis in your sideline. So she's helping you by fulfilling that requirement. She's going to your sideline. But then when she's sidelined, you get to play a 3-cost Asuna from your hand. So by her sidelining herself, you're losing a 4000 BP attacker, but you're not losing vital board presence. You get to replace her with an Asuna that you can then raid over or attack with, right? You have some very strong 3-cost Asunas. So all of that together makes Mother's Rosario actually a really strong deck. Like, this is solidly an A-tier deck now. It's no longer at the bottom of the tier. This is a solidly A-tier deck. With the right pilot, this deck can be very strong now. So I'm super excited about that. Here's a deck that I think a lot of people actually have kind of gained some awareness of, which is, I'm calling it the Alice and Friends deck because there is an Integrity Knights deck that's different now. But the Alice and Friends deck is another deck that gets a lot in the Volume 2. The biggest thing it gets is this 3-cost character that counts as both Yu-Gi-Oh! And Kirito. That's huge. That's very huge. So you can essentially use it to raid either your Kirito or your Yu-Gi-Oh! Or you can push him up and he fulfills the name requirements for your effects that need to have those names on the field. For example, the 5-cost Alice that lets you sideline, or the 4-cost, 2-action cost Kirito that lets you get double attack. This is a huge card. I can't think of another card like this in the game. It's very unique to the strategy. And then you get just a solid new raid with Kirito. So this helps you get even more names. One of the biggest weaknesses of this deck before was that you only had 8 total Kirito. So if your opponent knew what he was doing, he could remove the Kirito and make it much less likely that you're going to hit your name requirements to get your strongest effects off. Well, now that's not a viable strategy because you have plenty of name characters for each of the vital names you need. So again, Alice and Friends, solid A tier deck again. It was A tier before, and this moves it definitely up into the A tier. So you can see just how strong this set is, right? We're not even gotten to the strongest decks yet, and we've already covered 2 A tier potential decks. And you could even make the argument that SAO, Blue SAO becomes A tier. So we could be talking about 3 decks already hovering around the A plus to A tier range. Now we're getting up to a deck that'll be probably A plus tier on my tier list, and that is the Sword Art Online Progressive deck. I love this deck. It's one of the decks I'm looking forward to playing the most. And one of the things that's going to stand out to you right away is you have a ton of low-cost character draw and filter. You have the 0 cost Asana, draw 1, discard 1, the 1 cost Asana, filter, and the 2 cost Asana, draw. As if that weren't enough, you also have this really cool necklace card that lets you protect one of your characters. So it reads, this choose one character in your front line. It gains, this character cannot be chosen by your opponent's effects. In the English version, that would probably be abilities until the start of your next turn. And you also get to restand an AP. This is such a strong card. I love that. That's going to be so strong in your deck. And then you have a bunch of ways. You have this 3 cost Mito that makes it so your opponent cannot block you with characters. And you have this 2 action cost Kirito that lets you play an Asana from your sideline, so you can play one of those low cost draw filter cards, and you can use him to reduce the BP of opposing characters he has damage to, and he can easily be switched to active with your 4 cost Asana. So this deck is just it's looking to do a minimal setup to do a ton of damage quickly, stop your opponent from being able to block you, hit with impact, hit with damage too. It's a pretty powerful onslaught, plus you're getting a ton of free plays for your Asana. So just like the movies, the progressive films that focus on Asana, the progressive deck is highly focused on Asana, and your characters bring her back. You have searching with this Argo color trigger, and this Argo also has a really cool can't be blocked by 4,000 or more. So this is just going to be a really tricky deck to deal with. If you haven't dealt with it before, it's going to be a tricky deck to deal with because it can just move around your opponent's board so easily. That's going to be an A plus tier deck right away in my books when it comes out. And now another deck that's up there, and this is one that people are really excited about, and that is the Yellow Goddesses deck. I almost don't have to say how much I love Yellow Goddesses because I feel like by now everyone knows I love Yellow Goddesses. It's one of the decks I've been the most successful with. It is one of the most powerful decks. If we're talking purely power, it's one of the most powerful decks around. The 4 cost Asana Raid, if you can hit it, is just one of the strongest plays in the game. Pulling up a character from the energy line, swapping a character, pushing a character back at the same time you're swapping them, locking a character down so it's out of the game for several turns essentially. And having the Xenon Raid impact and the Lifa, 4 cost Lifa that can't be chosen and gains 2,000 BP and can block anything. That was all really strong before. The thing it really lacked was lower cost draw characters. There is that new Yu-Gi-Oh! 1 cost Yu-Gi-Oh! That you can run. You can tech that in, but you almost don't need to. You have this 1 cost Xenon. Again, the trick with Goddesses is you're using your life as one of your resources. You have to be aware of it as a resource the way you are aware of your hand or the cards in your field, and you're using your life as a resource. So this 1 cost Xenon, it lets you bring a card from your energy, from your life area to your hand. Kind of acts as a 1 cost draw character, if you think about it that way. The real interesting thing about this deck following Volume 2 is the opportunity cost and risk involved with bringing cards to your hand from your life area goes down significantly because of your 4 cost Lifa. And this 4 cost Lifa you can use to put her raid source into your life as long as you have 4 or less life and only Goddesses on the field. So you can basically just hold the line at 4 if you want to. You can keep using these effects to pull cards to your hand, put cards back. It unlocks a really powerful play. You have the Xenon, also the 1 cost Xenon can grant impact and 2,000 BP to any goddess. So that can be useful in a plethora of situations. One being using Xenon to snipe with impact before you get down to two life. You can use Xenon as a snipe impactor at 3 life, and then you can put the, or actually at 4 life, sorry, because you're boosting her to 2,000. So at 4 life, Xenon can snipe impact as a 4,500 BP character, and then you can put the life back with Lifa to become 5 life. That's insane. So we're talking about vastly different kinds of power levels going on with Goddesses. And Goddesses was already a very strong deck. So I think the main drawbacks of this deck, I would love to have a 0 cost draw 1, discard 1. that would help this deck a lot, or a better raid target for Lifa. If the Elizabeth is pretty vital, the 3-cost Elizabeth is pretty vital to this deck strategy because you use her to search out your goddesses. She can be really vital to finding that Xenon to close out a game. I've done that many times. But if that was a Lifa instead of Elizabeth, this deck would be so much more broken. As it is, it's hard to fit in a raid target for Lifa. The raid Lifa, she's so strong. You really want another raid target, but the only one that is low cost is the Lifa that has the active trigger and nullify impact, but no 2 energy gen. So she kind of just sticks out like a sore thumb. If the Elizabeth were a Lifa, this deck would be even more broken. As is, you're kind of using your 0 cost and your 4 cost Lifa as your raid targets. It's not ideal to use a 4 cost as a raid target, but that's where we're at. And the nice thing is, if you do raid over the 4 cost, you put her into the life area, you can bring her back, use her again. So it's a little better than it normally is, but that's sort of the story there. That's the only downside. But this deck is going to be really strong. I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be so much fun to play this deck when it comes out. Moving on to the GGO deck, you're already seen ripple effects of people being excited about this deck. On TCG Player, Xenon is kind of hard to get. I'm not sure what she's at. I should probably check. But it's becoming kind of scarce to find Xenon on TCG Player from the original. And she's going up in value quite a bit because people are really, holy cow, I'm just checking right now, live. TCG Player, market price $16, but you can't find anything. Holy cow, people are excited about Xenon. I'm looking right now. You cannot find a Xenon on TCG Player for lower than 23. So I'll put the link again, this affiliate link in the show description. Click on that link. Go buy whatever you want to buy. And it supports the website, supports the show. Crazy. So in this case, the market price is vastly behind because the market price is showing $8. But if you're only seeing cards listed at 20 plus, I don't think it's an $8 card. It's also saying 16. It's saying different market prices. So let's look at the sales data on this. This is a bit of a tangent, but this is a big deal when a card jumps that much. So what this means is you can definitely expect to see this. Oh, here we go. Yeah, no, this is crazy. There are confirmed sales, $30 a piece, $25 a piece. Confirmed sales. I think this one was 13. This is probably the one I bought because I was missing a couple of Xenons. This one, I think I bought one for like 13 before it went up. But yeah. So expect to see GGO in Vegas because we haven't seen something like this since the Red Kenshin buyout like that. So GGO is going to be super popular. And GGO gets a lot. So GGO is known for being really strong in Japan. It gets a lot in the volume 2. It gets this raid Xenon. So it has yet another. So you have 2 raid Xenons you can choose from. This raid Xenon lets you draw a card on play. You get to play a character for 3 with trait GGO from your hand. And then you get on the front line, you can activate a main and you can choose another character in your area and it gains impact 1. So you can essentially grant impact to your sniping Xenon, or you can boost something by 1,000. That's insane. It's a really strong card. And then the thing that really makes this deck strong is this 2-cost Kirito that reduces the required energy of all GGO cards in your hand with an original card energy of 6 or more by 1. So that means your sniping Xenon is sniping with impact at 5 cost, making it even better than Saito in a way. And then your Kirito that was 7 cost before it drops down to 6 cost. So that's really strong. This deck is going to have a huge turnout, I think, in Vegas. So watch for that. But it gets even better. The strongest deck coming out of Sword Art Online Volume 2 is the purple Yuna deck. Now, one thing we don't know, and I would say the safest bet is it probably will happen. In Japan, they had to limit the 1-cost Yuna. And we'll get into why in a little bit, but just for starters, as a caveat to this, we don't know for sure that the 1-cost Yuna is going to get banned. Restricted, so limited to 2. In Japan, it's limited to 2. We don't know that it's going to. There have been situations where limits and things For example, the Sukuna starter deck was limited in Japan originally. It wasn't in the English meta, so maybe Yuna won't be limited. Maybe they won't limit it to have some more competition with Evangelion. We'll see. But the one cost Yuna that lets you search out song cards is limited in Japan. So in this deck list, I've put her at 2 just to be safe. But this deck is really, really strong, and it mostly centers on using your song cards like your really strong Kirito. First of all, you have this really strong Kirito, and this Kirito is your removal tool. He's one of the strongest removal characters we've seen in the game. So if you've played a trait song during this turn, you may pay 1 AP, choose up to one character on your opponent's front line with 2,000 or less and retire it. But if you place 5 cards from your sideline to the bottom of your deck, you can sideline a 5,000 BP character or less instead. So that's really easy to do. You're easily removing 5,000 BP characters. He has Impact Negate, your color trigger. He's a really strong card for all that. And the cool thing is you can recycle him. So you can use him over and over via your special. So this deck has a really interesting special. It's a song card called Smile for You. Add up to 1 character card from your outside area to your hand, so you can use that from your sideline to your hand. So you can use that to bring back the Kirito. And then you get to play up to 1 purple SAO Survivor card set to active. And that character gains, this character cannot be chosen by your opponent's character effects until the start of your next turn. So you can bring back that Kirito, play him, sideline a character all over again, and he has this powerful layer of protection. So that's pretty crazy. It gets crazier. There's so much going on in this deck. So let's look at this 4-cost Yuna. During your turn, and this one can raid. It's a rare that can raid. Off of life, has a raid trigger. But on play, during this turn, reduce the AP cost of the next song card you play from your hand by 1. This is letting you play those song cards for free. Right? So now all of a sudden it's a lot easier to pay that extra AP with the Kirito to remove something. And then during your activate main, you can place 4 cards from your sideline to the bottom of your deck in any order, and choose up to 1 SAO Survivor on your field, and it gets damage 2. During this turn, use that with this powerful 4-cost Asuna. If you use a song this turn, Asuna gains impact. Give that to Asuna. She becomes a damage 2, impact 1 character. So you can kind of see where this is going. There's even more stuff, right? Like the 3-cost Yuna lets you bring back a song card that you can then use for free if you have the other raid. You can use her to boost BP. You can boost everybody's BP if you want with her. So she's a great supporting character. And you also have some really strong. You have some strong low cost draw discard characters as well. So Yuna's really, really strong. It's going to be a really strong deck. You also have the cards themselves, the song cards themselves have some really powerful searching effects. So like the ubiquitous DB, look at the top 5 cards of your deck, reveal 1 card among them and add it to your hand. Place the remaining cards at the bottom of your deck in any order. If the revealed card is a trait song card, other than Ubiquitous DB or Yuna, choose up to 1 of your AP cards and set it to active. So you're searching cards out and not even paying an AP to do so. And then you have this less powerful but solid draw effect called Longing. Draw 2 cards and place 2 cards from your hand to the outside area. So that's to sideline, sorry. So that's going to be really effective at fueling your sideline for those effects that you need cards on sideline to use, kind of like Purple Bleach, but easier. It's much easier than the Purple Bleach. And then you can also switch an AP to active. So yeah, this deck's going to be crazy. I would expect the Yuna on TCG Player to be selling for around 30, like Red Kenshin did. This deck's going to be highly popular. And it's going to be probably the most dominant. I mean, it's going to be, the Rare Battle format's going to be fun because there's so many strong decks, but my guess is the purple is going to be the most dominant in the Rare Battle format. So definitely learn to play or play against the purple Yuna deck. So that's everything. I am so stoked about this set. I've already purchased all like my case and everything, so I have it all lined up. I'm going to be building straight away. I'm so excited for Sword Art Online Volume 2. It's going to be a powerful force in the meta for some time. It's going to be a very powerful force at the upcoming nationals in Vegas, and it might be just strong enough to challenge Evangelion even. So if you're looking for something, if you want to not just play Evangelion because Evangelion is going to be the strongest thing, Sword Art Online Volume 2 gives you some powerful options. And depending on how they balance things out, it could even go even with Evangelion. We're going to have to wait and see. So I hope you enjoyed that. Again, like and subscribe on YouTube. Follow me on the other socials like X. Join the Discord. Check out the website, josephryderanderson.com, where you can find even more information like this. And until next time, keep on battling.